Welcome to Something to Talk About.
Hi, welcome to Something to Talk About. You heard the little lady, and as I already said on Tuesday, so I'm not going to harp on it right now. Welcome to Season 4. It is a very late start to Season 4. I call it Season 4 because the anniversary of me doing my first A Song of Ice and Fire video is November 10th, and I did that on, my first character video. I did that in 2022, and it's 2025, but it's way past November 10th. I lost my whole schedule was way longer, and I just didn't plan it right. I think I had too many in there, and then I took a break and I didn't remove as much as I should have. And when I noticed it, it was pretty much already past November 10th, and I was like, wait, when Season 4 start? And yeah, so it's starting now. It's starting late. And yeah, so that's why I got my daughter to do a new intro. So let me know what you think, and I'll let her know if you think it's good. And yeah, you guys want to talk about a Lannister? Talking to Gerold Lannister, the Gerold the Golden. And this is kind of going to be a prelude to the the Reynes and Tarbeck Reynes and Tarbeck Revolt. There we go. I'll say that sentence all over again. This is kind of a prelude to the Reynes and Tarbeck Revolt. And because it ends with and then that's going to happen later. But this is all the stuff that's kind of leading to it. And also, Gerold is a very interesting character before all that goes on. So I'm going to be covering a lot of that. And this is kind of lumped in. If you want two videos, so I don't have to say it later, that tie in a lot to this. And if you want to watch the three of them together, it will give you a much bigger full view. And that's going to be my Ellen Tarbeck or Ellen Rain video that I did a little over a year ago, I think, or maybe even longer. And then my Roger Rain video, they kind of tie into this. But this is more before that, leading up to it. So yeah, Gerold Lannister. If you don't know what's going on here, pause this, read this. Definitely spoilers for the books and kind of the show, I guess, because this character's way before it. And yeah, let's just get right into Gerold the Golden. I love this character. Not really. Gerold the Golden, Gerold Lannister, also known as Gerold the Golden, was the Lord of Casterly Rock, Shield of Lannisport, and Warden of the West, and the head of House Lannister during the reign of Aerys the First Targaryen, King Maekar the First Targaryen, and part of the reign of Aegon the Fifth Targaryen. So yeah, Gerold was golden hair, over 6 feet tall, and he was known to be quick of wit, a friendly man with an and was exceedingly clever. And as a Lord of Casterly Rock, he proved himself to be exceptionally shrewd, able, and fair-minded lord. He enjoyed reading, especially later in life. So, yeah, you'll get to why I think he's a little bit of a shady cat here in a bit. But yeah, let's start off. He's handsome and clever and stuff. So let's talk about the little lesser-known house of House Lannister, which I'm sure you guys have never heard about before. House Lannister of Casterly Rock is one of the great houses of the Seven Kingdoms. It is the principal house of the Westerlands. Their seat is at Casterly Rock, and although another branch exists in the nearby Lannisport, their sigil is the golden lion on a field of crimson. Their official motto is "Hear me roar." However, their unofficial motto, equally well known, is "A Lannister always pays his debts." The Warden of the West is a Lannister by tradition. Their gold mines have made the Lannisters the wealthiest of the great houses. Though the female line of the Lannisters boasts descent from Lan the Clever, the legendary trickster of the Age of Heroes who tricked members of Casterly Rock into giving him Casterly Rock during the era of the First Men. Later marrying Andals, the Lannisters reign as kings, through the female line. That's what I did wrong. The Lannisters reigned as kings of the Rock until Targaryen conquest, when they were defeated at the Field of Fire. So, yeah. Let's just, no further ado, let's get right into Gerold. Born at Casterly Rock, Gerold was the youngest son of Lord Daemon Lannister, the Grey Lion, and his wife, Lady Cerisa Brax. After Daemon passed in 210 AC, Gerold's older brother, Sir Tybalt, became the Lord of the Rock by 212 AC. Gerold was a suitor to Lady Rohan Weber of Coldmoat. Do you guys know her? She was fond of his letters. However, she believed Gerold would never willingly forsake the pleasures of Lannisport and the splendor of Casterly Rock for some little lordship, as he wielded more influence at Casterly Rock than his brother's advisor, than he could ever hope to be a husband of a Lady Rohan. Rohan Weber would eventually marry many others. Many others. Oh, that's what I'm reading wrong. Rohan Weber would eventually marry another. Well, many others. Her first two husbands were unknown, but she then married Simon Staunton, Roland Ufering, and then old man Eustace Osgrey. Gerold married Alysanne Farman instead. So yeah, they went and got different marriages, right? Following the Grey Lion's passing in 210 AC, his son Tybalt succeeded him as I think I already said that. Yeah, I said that earlier, as Lord of Casterly Rock, only to perish himself 2 years later under suspicious circumstances. A young man in his prime, Lord Tybalt left no heir of his body to serve except for a 3-year-old daughter, Sorella. Oh, we're going to go with Sorella? I'm going to go with Sorella. Gerold had served as regent for his young niece, Sorella, but in less than a year, she too was dead, whereupon the Rock and the Westerlands and all the wealth and power of House Lannister passed to her uncle, Gerold. So, excuse me. Tybalt takes over and dies in a year. And then his 3-year-old daughter takes over and she dies. And oh, wow, Gerold's all of a sudden able to be Lord now. Yeah, we'll talk about it. Lord and Lady of the Rock. The suddenness of Sorella's death at such a tender age set tongues to wagging, as mine just did, and it was whispered widely in the West that both Lady Sorella and Tybalt have died of Gerold's hand. Probably. No one knows for certain, though. Gerold Lannister soon proved himself to be an exceptionally shrewd, able, and fair-minded lord, greatly increasing the wealth of the house and the power of Casterly Rock and trade of Lannisport. So no one's going to start yelling, murderer, because he's like a decent lord. We're all getting rich. I mean, he's a pretty good lord. He killed his brother and niece. Yeah, but we're getting rich. All right. Sometime after the passing of Rohan's 5th husband, by the way, if you don't know who Rohan Weber is, and if you haven't read the Dunk and Egg books, she is in the 2nd Dunk and Egg book, the Sworn Sword. It's hard for me to say. Too many SWs, Sworn Sword. And yeah, she'll probably be in the 2nd season of Knighted Seven Kingdoms when that comes out. By the time of this video, I haven't seen the 1st season yet. So yeah. Where was I? No one knows. At sometime after the passing of Rohan's 5th husband, Eustace Osgrey, she and Gerold finally got married in 2019. Wow, Taco, that's a heck of a man. They waited 18,000 or 1,800 years to get married. That's a good typo, man. Although Gerold had no children by his first wife, he would have 4 sons with Rohan, the twins Tywald and Tion, and Tytos, who was born in 220, and then Jason Lannister in 229. So let's pause right here and talk about they can't get married because he's not in charge of the Rock. And then everybody dies and he's all of a sudden in charge, and then he's like, all right, let's get married. We don't really hear what happened to his first wife, I don't think. And yeah, you know what, I'm gonna pause 1 second here. Yeah, I'm back. I just wanted to see if I could find really quick if we actually know what happened to Elisane Farman, and we just don't. Um, yeah, it just we don't hear anything about her. We just hear that he then marries her. So add another person to randomly went missing. We're about to add yet another. So yeah, so they finally get married. Gerold ruled the Westerlands for 31 years. Earning him the nickname of Gerold the Golden. Yet tragedies that befell House Lannister in the years that followed were proof enough of a Lord Gerold's enemies. His beloved second wife, Lady Rohan, vanished under mysterious circumstances in 230 AC. This is a year after Jason Lannister, right? Less than a year after giving birth to, yeah, I shouldn't have stopped and said that. Yeah, this is less than a year after giving birth to his lordship's fourth and youngest son. Yeah, just disappears. Tywald, the eldest of the twin sons, died during the storming of Starpike in 233 AC while squiring for Lord Robert's reign in the Peak Uprising, which we're going to get to. But let's just cover them really quick. His dad dies. The next year, his brother dies. And then his brother's daughter, so his niece dies. And then his first wife dies. He finally gets to marry the chick he always wanted to marry. And then she disappears. What are you up to? What are you up to, Gerold? What are you up to? You a serial killer, dude? All right, double marriage. Along with his heir, Tywald, Robert's reign, the father of Roger and Ellen Rain, who we're going to talk about a lot, and Maekar Targaryen also died in that fight. This is the Peak Uprising, where a bunch of people died. Lord Brynden Rivers summoned a great council to settle the issue of royal succession. With his eloquence and possibly his gold as well, Gerold aided in swaying the lords at the council to bestowing the Iron Throne to Prince Aegon Targaryen. And yeah, as far as we know, him and Aegon were close. At least that's what we're kind of getting from this. We haven't seen, the other Dunk and Egg books. We don't know what really happens between the third Dunk and Egg book, which is the second Blackfyre Rebellion, which is way before this, all the way till now. But we're assuming, since they are pretty close in age, that they get together at some point, Gerold and Aegon the Unlikely. But yeah, so there's a lot of speculation for what I found online that these guys are friends, but it doesn't actually say that anywhere. The only thing we have is this, where he supports him, right? So yeah. Okay, where was I? Less well known, but no less baleful are the dire effects that the battle had upon the history of the West. So we're saying, of course, Maekar, the king dying, there was a great council. It was really important. But it also, Tywald dying had a big effect on the Westerland. So Gerold's son Tywald had long been betrothed to Roger, the Red Lion-spirited younger sister, Lady Ellen. Following Tywald's death, Lady Ellen pursued Tywald's twin brother, Tien, to set aside his own betrothal of daughter of Lord Rowan of Golden Grove and espouse her instead. Get betrothed to her instead. It has been said that Gerold opposed this match. You were just engaged to his twin brother. Now you want to marry him? But in the end, due to his grief, age, and illness, he gave way when Tien revealed that Tywald's dying words begged his brother to, quote, take care of Lady Ellen. All right, I'm going to stop right there. I don't believe you, Tien. I think Tien always wanted to, I was the one to marry Ellen. I almost said something else. And couldn't because she wanted to be betrothed to the heir. And then the heir died. I'm sure Tywald's last words were like, hey, dude, I'm dying. This really sucks. but he's like, huh? What's that? No, bang your girlfriend? Is that what he said? I don't believe Tywald at all with this one. Take care of her didn't mean that. Go and get her a pillow or something, man. Make her comfortable. Not take care of her. What are you talking about? Yeah, as he died, he looked up and said, bang my girlfriend, please. And you know, Dad, I gotta. Tion, I don't believe you, dude. that's some shady stuff you're into. All right. Anyways, moving on past that, I always find that really funny. In 235 AC, in a double wedding at Casterly Rock, Sir Tion Lannister took Ellen Rain to wife, whilst his younger brother Tytos wed Jane Marbrand, a daughter of Alan Marbrand of Ashmark. Twice a widower and ailing, Lord Gerold did not wed again. So after her marriage, Ellen of House Reyne became Lady of Casterly Rock in all but name. Yeah, Gerold's still there, but he's not really like taking charge anymore. So kind of Ellen in a lesser part Tion, but mostly Ellen Reyne starts kind of taking over Casterly Rock, right? So the Fourth Blackfyre Rebellion. As her good father Gerold retreated to his books and his bedchamber, Lady Ellen had a splendid court, staging a series of magnificent tourneys and balls, and filling the rock with artists, mummers, musicians, just spending a bunch of money. And her family, the Reynes. Her brothers Roger and Reynard were ever by her side. The offices, honors, and lands were showered upon them and upon her uncles, cousins, nephews, and nieces as well. Yeah, she let it rain on the Reynes. Lord Gerold's aged fool, the acrobic, all right, a hunchback called Lord Toad, was heard to say, Lady Ellen must surely be a sorceress, for she made it rain inside of the rock all year. Yeah, made it rain on the Reynes. For this jape, Ellen's expense, she had him whipped. Dude, you're just having him whipped for a joke? Jeez, man. Just walk up and slap him in the face. Gerold was too ill to interfere. Yeah, Gerold just like takes a back seat and Ellen just takes over. When Daemon Blackfyre, third of his name, crossed the narrow sea in 236 AC, King Aegon V summoned his lords from all across the Seven Kingdoms to oppose him and the Fourth Blackfyre Rebellion. It ended far more quickly than the pretender might have wished. And at the Battle of Windwater Bridge, the Royalists lost fewer than 100 men, but amongst them was Sir Tion Lannister, heir to Casterly Rock. The loss of the second of his, quote, gorgeous twins might well have been expected to break their grieving father, but Lord Gerold, who this video is supposed to be about, but curiously, the opposite seemed to be the case. So yeah, the Fourth Blackfyre Rebellion happened, and it was like barely a thing, no big deal, right? Just a couple people on their side died. The Battle of, what did I say, the Windwater? Right? Yeah, the Battle of the Windwater Bridge happened, and just like 8 people from Westeros, is more than that, died, and one of them just happened to be Tion. So now Alan lost another person, but he now lost another heir. He's lost both of his twins now. And you think because he's already fell into such grief after Tywald died that he pretty much let Ellen take over and he just goes and reads and he doesn't care. You think that he would fall bigger in depression. But that's not what happened, dude. The War of the Wombs. After Tion's body was laid to rest within Casterly Rock, Gerold the Golden roused himself and took firm hold of the Westerlands once more, intent on doing all he could to prepare his third-born son, the weak-willed and unpromising boy Tytos, to succeed him. He knows Tytos sucks, so he has to jump in. The reign of the Reynes was at an end. Lady Ellen's brothers soon departed Casterly Rock for Casimir, accompanied by many of their other Reynes. Lady Ellen remained, but her influence dwindled, while that of Lady Jane grew. In 239, Ellen attempted to bed Tytos, urging him to set aside his wife, Jane Marbrand. However, young Tytos found her so intimidating that he was unable to perform. Oh man, that sucks. Humiliated, he ran back to his wife to confess, and begged for her forgiveness. Lady Jane was willing to pardon her young husband, but was less forgiving of her good sister, and did not hesitate to inform Gerold of the incident. Furious, Gerold deserved to rid Casterly Rock of Ellen Reyne for good by finding her a new husband. Ravens flew and a hasty match was made. Within a fortnight, Ellen Reyne was wedded to Warden Tarbeck, Lord of Tarbeck Hall, the 55-year-old widowed lord of an ancient, honorable, but impoverished house. Yeah, get Ellen out of here. Ellen Reyne, now Lady Tarbeck, departed Casterly Rock with her husband, never to return, but the rivalry between her and Lady Jane was not at an end. If anything, it seemed to intensify through what Lord Toad came to be called the War of the Wombs, which is just who's going to have heirs first is essentially what it is, right? The bad bladder. Lady Ellen would give Lord Tarbeck 2 daughters and a son. I'm going to get back to that. This art here is so good because in the middle it's Ellen Reyne, and then I want to say that's Roger Reyne next to her, and then her husband, the Tarbeck guy, what would I say what his name was? Warden Tarbeck. And the reason I really wanted to use this, even though Gerold Lannister isn't in this, is because I've covered 2 of those characters, and this art wasn't around yet. I would have used that art for the other ones. It's super good. I love it because it shows Ellen Reyne and Roger Reyne, and then that Tarbeck guy. But yeah, no, I had to shoehorn it in. And no, it didn't take the place of any other Gerold art. I could only find a couple arts for Gerold. So yeah. All right. The 2 daughters. So they had 2 daughters and a son. She chose all their names carefully. According to Maester Belden, who called them, quote, daggers aimed at Gerold's heart. That's what these names were. She named her kids specifically to piss off or get at Gerold. That's kind of nuts, right? Like, those names are going to be stuck on those kids that are literally their entire lives unless they change their names. But like, what are you named after? Oh, my mom really hated this one guy. All right. So her daughter's name was Rohan, after Lord Gerold's lost wife. Well, one of them. Her second daughter was Sorella, after the niece Gerold was rumored to have killed, and her son was named Tion after Gerold's son and Ellen's late husband. Wow. Lady Jane answered with children of her own, the first of whom was a son. She given the name Tywin. You guys know that one. And legend claims that when his grandsire Gerold ruffled the boy's golden hair, the child bit his finger. Yeah, dude, don't mess with Tywin Lannister. He might be a newborn, but he doesn't F around. I think Tyrion, or Tywin came out not crying. Like, he's a baby, and they're like, hey, show me you're alive and can breathe, quiet. And he's like, I do think that, Tywin was born with mutton chops and a frown, just right. Hey, is that your new son? Jeez. Get him an army. All right. In 244 AC, Gerold the Golden died of a bad bladder, unable to pass water. Oof. At the age of 24, Tytos Lannister, he wasn't, Gerold wasn't 24, Tytos was. The eldest surviving son became Lord of Casterly Rock, Shield of Lannisport, and Warden in the West. I better play this before the time passes here.
Poochie's dead!
Yeah, Gerold's dead. So yeah, gotta play that. All right. Where was I at? At the age of 24, Tytos Lannister, the eldest surviving son, became Lord of Casterly Rock, Shield of Lannisport, and a Warden of the West. Sorry, I read that twice. I just felt like it. All were offices which he was manifestly unsuited. Yeah, he was not a good ruler. His weak rule in the strong alliance between houses Reynes and Tarbeck eventually led to the Reynes and Tarbeck Revolt in 261 AC. So this is way after Gerold died, where Tywin destroyed both houses. So yeah, like I said, Gerold's life is definitely the prelude to that. The Reynes and Tarbeck Revolt and the Reigns of Castamere, if you will, that happened in 261, would not have happened if it wasn't for everything that happened during Gerold's life. Like, Gerold was very much the, let's say, not even the Viserys before the dance. He was like the Jaehaerys before the dance. Like, he probably could have played it a little closer, but hey, the rebellion's not going to happen under his watch, so who cares, right? But like, kind of empowering the wrong people, pissing out the wrong people, and yeah. And you know, you can't really blame Gerold, I think, for the Reynes and Tarbeck Revolt. Of course, Ellen Reyne and Roger Reyne and the Reynes and the Tarbecks, you could blame the most, or the ones who literally did the revolt. But Tytos is the number one person to blame when you have somebody under your rule who is gaining power and pretty much just stealing money from you, and has been stealing money from you, and has been getting all this power. You can't just be a weak ruler. And yeah, Tywin didn't give a crap. He turned to like 8. I know he was older than that. And then he went and crushed their house. I know he was older. So did he murder half his family? All right. So the second half of this video became the prequel to the Reynes and Tarbeck Revolt, which we already talked about, and that's very cool to see how the early seeds of the revolt were planted. But let's go back to the first half of this vid. Did Gerold kill his brother, niece, and own wife? And now that I've thought about it, other wife, because we don't know what happened to what was their name, the Farman one. Is that Elisa? No, I want to say Elisa Farman. Alicent Farman. Did he kill both his wives and brother and niece? We have very little information about their deaths. I literally gave you guys everything I had. And since Gerold would have been so powerful at the time, he could have any evidence swept away. And we hear about these events like 80-ish years later when Master Yandel wrote them down during Robert's reign, because most of this is from the World of Ice and Fire book. So we have all the reason to suspect him of killing them. The motive for killing his brother and niece clearly were to take seat as the Lord. For killing his first wife, which I forgot when I was writing this, clearly is because he always wanted to marry Rohan, so there's a motive there as well. But killing Rohan, who he wouldn't have been able to marry until his father's death, seems to have had no motive. Why kill Rohan, right? But if he didn't, what happened? If he didn't kill her, what happened to her? If somebody else killed her, we would have learned about it. He would have murdered that person. It would have been a spectacle. If she ran, we would have heard about where she went. So I really do think just because if anything else happened to her, we would at least know about it. If she went somewhere else, there would be stories. Oh, and Rohan ran back to Cold Moat or whatever, right? Or Talise, or like she is a high enough profile person that she can't like disappear. And if she was killed, he probably would have made us think about it. Like, whoever killed her would have been killed publicly. Like, what happened? Like, maybe it was an accidental death, like she fell on her head. But why keep that a secret? I really do think, even though there's no evidence, it's the only one that makes sense. I definitely think Homeboy is a straight up serial killer, or opportunist killer. Murdered both his wives, his niece, and his brother, and maybe his dad. We don't know. So yeah. Do I think that? Yeah. Where was I? We have no proof of anything, and all we do is just go by our guts. And I lead towards him doing it. Yeah, I think Gerold has done a lot of patricide. Is that family murder? Did a lot of family murder. This guy, and yeah. So ultimately, Gerold the Golden, for that little run he did, it seemed to be pretty good. But then he let Ellen Reyne just make her family super powerful and drain all their money, as he did nothing about it. And then finally, he took over a little bit. But he didn't actually set his son up. Like, it's like, oh, and he got to get Tytos ready. Well, he didn't. Tytos was a horrible lord. So, yeah, Gerold, bad dude, not a great ruler, was probably a good ruler for a little bit, enough to earn a nickname, but murdered half his family, and most likely murdered half his family. And, yeah, then eventually the rebellion took place. So, Yeah. Anyways, what do you guys think of Gerold the Golden Lannister? And that's all I got. Do you think that he iced most of his family? I do. All right. Welcome to season 4. At some point today, this week, I either already posted it or I will post it. The entire season I will put on my channel of all the characters I'm planning on covering until like November 10th of next year. And of course, it is subject to change. And yeah, but I will be doing that. So that's all I got. All right. You guys have a good one. Click like and subscribe and do all that stuff. Peace.